This is the 4th video in the CT70 series, and I have yet to give you that history lesson I promised. Let's do it now. You've watched me make foot controls, bend handlebars, ruin a perfectly good exhaust system. But what about all of this stuff? I made all of this stuff before I ever considered putting it to film. So this isn't going to be your typical fabrication video, though I promise I will not just make it a picture slideshow with like star wipes. I bought this bike on the 4th of July 2019 for $200. It was a bit of a project. First thing I did was tear it all down, and I had the body sandblasted. Then cut out all of the rotten metal and weld in clean steel. You can see I still have to grind down the metal, blend it all together, but it is solid. Nobody is going to complain that I destroyed an original bike like on the BMW. The lightning bolt shaped sissy bar is probably my favorite part. I cut it out of aluminum on a CNC router table at the place I worked at the time, as well as the tiny lightning bolts that attach the seat back. I'm planning to powder coat these like a transparent candy apple red because this is a theme bike, Orange County Chopper style. It's a nod to David Bowie, one of my favorite artists, and in combination with the blue seat, it's a reference to his album Aladdin Sane. As for the seat itself, I made up a couple of aluminum seat pans and sent them over to Ginger in New Church Moto. She did the upholstery. She did a great job. And again, this is a reference to Bowie and this image in particular. I made the seat 2 pieces so that the gas tank is still accessible. So this taillight is actually something that I made pretty recently. I just didn't think it was worth making a whole video about. I did make a short on it, but it did pretty poorly, so I took it down. But I think this is a pretty cool taillight. It is from a place in Tokyo called Brat Style, and this thing is called a shisa. It is kind of like a lion dog thing, and it protects you from evil. I made this cool little housing for it, and maybe a license plate if I ever get this thing registered. Finally, this is the big one, folks, the forks. I wanted to make something unique, so I went through a couple different designs before choosing this. I guess you would call this an inverted or reverse springer, or maybe a leading link fork. It's kind of similar to what came on the Honda Cub and some early Airhead BMWs. The Vespa had something similar, but kind of mirror imaged, called a trailing link fork. Just about one of a million ways to cook an egg. This is how it works. When the bike hits a bump or somebody sits down on it, the rocker, aka those lightning bolts, pivot on the end of the fork. This compresses the spring, as shown here in blue. Harley-style springers usually use a second set of springs as a damper, but in this case I'm using a set of rear shocks from a CB125, and you know what? It actually works great. To deal with the added leverage of the rocker arms, I replaced the springs with heavy-duty die springs from McMaster. I did a bunch of BS math to calculate how sturdy these needed to be, but honestly, it was kind of a guess. I had the lightning bolt shaped rocker arms laser cut out of stainless steel to match the rest of the forks. As for the fork legs themselves, I made them by welding some machined plugs on either end of a stainless steel tube. One end accepts the pivot of the rocker arms, and the other is threaded so that you can bolt it to the top of the triple tree. I used some specialty 22mm stainless steel tubing, which is the exact same size as the factory forks. That way I could use the factory triple trees. And there you go, custom front end. What else is there? The original 70cc engine was still in the bike when I bought it, but it was completely locked up. And honestly, buying a new engine for these things is around the same price as rebuilding the old one. So I've got a Piranha 140cc engine in this thing. It's gonna do wheelies, folks. And there, you're all caught up. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I am working on the next phase of this build, the hand controls, but I'm gonna go out of town for a bit, so I figured this is a good opportunity to just talk, as if I needed an excuse.